Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. At the time of this recording, the Atlanta Braves are down 9-4 in game one of what's supposed to be a doubleheader. We'll see if the second one, if the rain holds off for that second one, in which Chris Sale will pitch, which hopefully is a win if that ends up happening. But we're not going to talk about this today because, frankly, down 9-4 doesn't look good. Nothing about the Atlanta Braves look good. The pitching has been bad so far in the second half. Now, a lot of these guys have been Bryce Elder and Allen Winans, and you're not really expecting those guys to go out there and shove, but it just seems like this team, when you talk about a team that's clicking on all cylinders, this is the opposite. So let's talk about Falcons. We got training camp guys arriving. We saw Kirk Cousins. He's in a Hawks jersey. It's nice, you know. He's already fitting in right now in the city of Atlanta, working on winning over the good graces. But let's specifically talk about kind of the guys that are on this fringe roster bubble with a new coaching staff. Nothing is guaranteed. Now all these guys have fresh, clean slates to come out and potentially become big pieces, but there's opportunities for the Richie Grants and the Taquan Grahams to be, everyday starters getting the bulk of the snaps. They could also be off the roster too. So you just recently wrote an article on some of this stuff. Go check it out at sportstalkatl.com. But let's talk about some of these roster bubble candidates.
We can go chronologically through draft classes. I think that might be pretty easy for people to remember. 2021 first draft class in Terry Fontenot's tenure. Pretty much all of them have dissipated up to this point. And the only one who has actually been – none of them have been consistently good because even Kyle Pitts has struggled in the past 2 years. But three guys from that class – three guys from that class, Richie Grant, second-round pick. He was supplanted last year, as we know, by DeMarco Hellams. But, again, everything you mentioned prefaced before this is the only reason, like, a lot of these guys have a chance of sticking around, especially Richie Grant, is the fact that there's a new regime in town. He's going to be competing with DeMarco Hellams. I mean, hell, you can't beat a seventh-round pick out. I don't know what to tell you. Probably shouldn't be in this league. Taquan Graham, he was a fifth-round pick. He came along real nicely in 2022. It was right next to Grady Jarrett before we signed David Onyemata. Went down with an MCL injury, has never been the same. And then Avery Williams, special teams guy. He tore his ACL last year. And when the Falcons went out and got Ray McLeod and traded for Rondell Moore, that the writing almost seems on the wall because, there's a reality where Avery Williams is not what he was when he was one of the better returners in the NFL a couple years ago. So those three guys from the 2021 class, they're definitely fighting. And Avery Williams might be fighting an uphill battle. Same with Taquan Graham. A lot of bodies on the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, these are kind of guys from opposite ends of the spectrum. Like Richie Grant was the guy that was drafted in the second round, who I think most of the fan base that are kind of love the NFL draft. Everyone liked that pick. Everyone thought of him as a Swiss Army knife. Could he play in the slot? Could he play safety? He could move all over the field. He was kind of –
he did all those things at UCF. He was
kind of a dirty worker. He was like a dirty worker too. Like he wasn't really like overpowering physically, but he was a ball player, right? Yeah. So a very exciting guy that just hasn't panned out. He barely played, and then when he was on the field, I mean, when you go see blown coverages in the Falcons secondary over the last couple of years, you're usually, Richie Grant is the guy to blame. I mean, there's so many mistakes, and it really seems like it's more from a mental side of things than, a physical side of things. So I don't know, maybe a new defensive coordinator or something can help him out. He's certainly going to be in the running when you talk about depth at the safety position to be a starter. So like I said at the beginning, this guy could be our starting safety and could figure things out and could be a stud. He could also be completely off the roster because, this coaching staff has no ties to him. And I think that's going to be the great thing about Raheem Morris is he doesn't have ties to any of these guys, and he's going to go with his guys. I think that's the one thing that he's proven as a head coach. He's going to go with the guys that he likes and he believes in, and that's really what it's going to come down to. There's no going to be BS. There's not going to be politics, and I think that's something Falcons fans have to look forward to. If you're Richie Grant, that's either going to be a blessing or that's going to be the end of your career in Atlanta.
Well, he came out and said some not so nice things before he was officially hired about Richie Grant, and then quickly walked him back in kind of a political standpoint. He was like, the more I watch, the more I like. And that could be coach speak, or it could be telling the truth. I don't know. Moving on, we'll go to the 2022 member, D'Angelo Malone, third-round pick. Desmond Ritter's already gone from that third round. This is the pick that the Falcons got for trading Matt Ryan. They ended up selecting D'Angelo Malone. And he had some moments as a rookie, but it didn't show up on the stat sheet. It was just flashes. In his second year, he played a whopping 2 or 3 snaps on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not misspeaking. He literally played 2 or 3 defensive snaps in the entire season. Now, that could be attributed to Ryan Nielsen's scheme. It could be attributed to his own faults, whatever it might be. He's got a fresh slate with this coaching staff. And you know, the weird thing about it is it's like this team needs outside linebackers. So if you can't make it for this team, that says a lot about you. But this is, I think, a better opportunity for him under Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake than maybe Ryan Nielsen because of the schematic issues.
I mean, to me, it's hard to really say anything about D'Angelo Malone because we haven't really seen him play. Like, I mean, the guy was a ghost last year. I mean, he literally was not on the field at all defensively, and he was barely on the field as a rookie. And when you're talking about rookie pass rushers, you're generally not expecting very much, and we didn't get very much. So, frankly, it's like we haven't even seen. Yes, it's good that he's got a clean slate, but exactly like you said, right? If he doesn't make it in Atlanta, like, where are you going to make it? Because
we need anybody and everybody.
If you can go out there and get 4 sacks, you are going to be on this roster. Like, if you have any potential to get a few sacks this year, you're going to be on the Atlanta Falcons roster. If you cannot do that here, then frankly, I'm sorry, the UFL, the CFL, those things are going to be calling your name quickly because I don't think you're going to get very many shots anywhere else.
Yeah, and sticking in that same group, I pegged Lorenzo Carter. Now this is a completely different scenario. This would be like a scenario like Arnold Ebiketie bursts onto the scene. Zach Harrison ends up taking a lot of edge snaps. A guy like D'Angelo Malone ends up, seizing an opportunity, a free agent addition like James Smith-Williams, who comes over from Washington. He's another guy. So Lorenzo Carter would be more of like a salary cap casualty more than anything because he is what he is at this point in his career. He's not going to give you more than 4 sacks. He's going to play decent run defense, and he's going to kind of be a role model. That's his best asset is the intangible aspect that he's a real football player. Like, he knows how to be an NFL pro, and that's probably why he sticks around. But to act like he's not a cuttable guy is a joke because, like I said, if one of these young guys shows even a little bit of promise, they should probably be getting the reps over a guy like Lorenzo Carter.
Lorenzo Carter, Georgia football legend, has one of the most famous plays in Georgia football history when he blocked that kick in the Rose Bowl, and he was an absolute stud. And he's been a pros pro. I mean, listen,
he's a pros pro.
Look, Lorenzo Carter is going to be on the roster. It's hard for me to see him getting cut because we just said, if you can give us anything, you're probably going to be okay. And we know Lorenzo Carter can give us 4 or 5 sacks, decent run. But I mean, he is like, he is the exact guy that is a backup. He might start for the Falcons, but around the league,
I would argue he will start.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he's that guy. But now listen, you're talking about him being cut. We talk about Michael Penix in the best case scenario for him. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Correct.
Like, if these rookies come up and step up and show that they deserve a spot on this roster, so much so that you're willing to cut Lorenzo
I didn't even
Carter.
Talk about the rookies, like you said, Braylon Trice, Ruka Rororo, all those guys with D'Angelo Malone, Arnold Ebiketie.
Those guys step up, and you.
That's what you want.
Yeah, that's what you want. So it's almost like I liked Lorenzo Carter. He's a decent player, but and he'll find somewhere in this league. But that means that you got guys. That means that you got young guys that you believe in with potential that have shown enough that you can cut this guy for a minimal cap savings. So it's kind of what you want, but I think at the end of the day, like you said, he's probably going to be the starter more likely than not.
Yeah, and the last guy is a guy that if he's cut, something would have gone horribly wrong, and that's Taylor Heineke. And by horribly wrong, I mean the Falcons just didn't take advantage of a situation. If Kirk Cousins goes down and Taylor Heineke is the first one off the bench, I will rip somebody's head off. This is absolutely not how it should go. If Kirk Cousins goes down, I'm sorry, the season, for an extended period of time, I'm sorry, the season's probably lost. We saw exactly what Taylor Heineke was capable of, and it's not being a long-term answer at the position. Michael Penix was coming out, other than Caleb Williams, was coming out as described as the most pro-ready quarterback prospect in the draft. And then you selected him with the 8th overall pick. If you play a 30-year-old career backup who has shown you that he's not capable of actually leading a team to, going to the playoffs other than that Washington run, which was just an aberration of his career. It's not who he is. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I still don't know what he's doing on the roster. The Falcons maybe are waiting for a team to call them and actually offer them maybe a 5th-round pick because they're desperate for a guy like Taylor Heineke, because there is a place in this league for Taylor Heineke. He's at a very palatable, like $4 million price tag. He took that pay cut earlier in the offseason. But if Kirk Cousins goes down, the season is over. We might as well get an early look at Michael Penix. There's absolutely no reason Taylor Heineke needs to be the backup. I don't even care if Michael Penix is bad, like he's not ready. It doesn't matter. Season's over. If Kirk Cousins is out for the season, it doesn't matter. Let's get Michael Penix some valuable experience. Like, he shouldn't be on the roster right now. I have no idea.
I mean, I agree. Like, I think they're probably just waiting for an opportunity to trade him.
Hopefully, if they cut him, something went horribly wrong.
I think that's the only reason, because I think there will be someone that comes around and says maybe a 6 or 7. Listen, if Zach Wilson can get a 7th-round pick, you think Taylor Heineke can get at least a 6th or a 5th or something of value. So I think they're maybe waiting to see later in the season. Maybe an injury arises. Maybe they're just holding on because, like you said, you took that pay cut. Now he's at a very palatable price tag. So I definitely think eventually he's going to be traded. But I agree. I mean, Michael Penix is the backup. I don't think you'll hear any arguments on the Falcons. And if you do, that is an issue in itself.